Good morning, sailors. I hope you enjoyed 10 minutes of cozy, independent reading time. Today, we are going to be reading a new poem called The Shortest Day. And it is indeed a short poem, and it has some connections to our last poem that we just read, Robert Frost's famous poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. The connection is they both take place on the winter solstice, which is the longest night of the year, the darkest night, where we have the least amount of daylight. And then after we just had that night, December 21st, like where the sun sets, I don't know, like 4:30 or something like that. And now we're marching towards longer days, a few minutes of daylight each day. And so Robert Frost, let's just take a little revisit here. The man in the poem, he's at work, he's doing the daily grind, right? And he's feeling a little bit tired, encumbered, overwhelmed, burdened, heavy. It's no accident that Robert Frost chose the darkest evening of the year, the winter solstice, to set the scene of the poem for the setting, because that's how the guy feels. He's feeling really heavy and dark and not a lot of light or joy at the end of the tunnel as he goes through his daily grind. And he just stops for a minute, right? And the woods are this temptation to just sort of, give in, give up. The woods are lovely. They're dark and deep. But then he remembers, I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And he returns to his duty, the daily grind, work. He's feeling a little bit somber, a little bit heavy. I think the mood of the poem sort of reflects that. And so we're going to notice how Susan Cooper, she sets the same time of year, the winter solstice and the shortest day, and the difference in mood in this poem. As we study these two poems, we also want to take a look, do some text to life connecting about our own mental wellness during this time, living up here in the Northern Hemisphere where the days can be dark and feel long in winter and cold and a little bit dreary, and how that affects some people with seasonal affective disorder. And then we're going to sort of take the message or the mood from the second poem and connect it to your life. And that'll also be our Wednesday work. How can we find happiness? How can we find joy? How can we find hope when the days feel cold, the days feel dark, and sometimes the days feel long? And so we're going to watch a clip today, right now, on seasonal affective disorder. What is winter depression? You might know some people that struggle with that or have it. Or maybe you felt a little sense of this in your own life, and that's very, very normal. And we'll talk about what are some things we can do to make sure that we feel our best.
Winter is coming. Winter is coming. No, we're not talking about zombies. With summer now having come and gone, we welcome the flat and gloomy grayness of winter. A period where you might feel dreary and low on energy.
You've got the winter blues,
Grandma would say. But is there truly such a thing as winter depression? Seasonal affective disorder is a type of depression related to the change in seasons. From the onset of autumn, people start feeling depressed and permanently tired, which lasts until the arrival of summer. A popular belief is that it's caused by days gradually getting shorter. Less daylight causes less serotonin to be made in the brain, which regulates your mood. It can be treated with light therapy and vitamin D. However, SAD also works the other way around, but less people talk about a summer depression. Studies confirm a correlation between depression and the change of season. Let's take Iran, for example, a country with extreme variations in temperature, where SAD rates in the north are higher due to cold winters compared to the warmer south. But other more recent studies question the correlation. People in Alaska tend to flee the winter, but SAD rates are still high. Iceland shows relatively low SAD rates, despite their well-known long winters. Perhaps it's because they eat a lot of fish, which is high in vitamin D. So, researchers are divided. But the internet isn't. Every month, millions of people search winter depression, which is often mislabeled, like many other conditions. Everybody knows that guy who says he's got the flu, but in fact, just suffers from a common cold.
You, sir, have a cold.
SAD recurs annually, affects your ability to cope with daily life, and requires professional help. So, what's the remedy for a minor winter blues that just affects your mood? Our advice would be, go outside. Defy the weather. It will feel refreshing. Did you learn something? Subscribe to our YouTube channel or go to Cooler.
All right, so that clip talks about how we can feel heavy when there's less sunlight and the days are dark and long. And what should you do? Get outside, defy the weather, embrace the season, move your body, and put yourself into maybe a new headspace. So right now in Google Classroom, if you click on, if you go to the post, The Shortest Day, you will find our poem. And I will just pull it up right here. If your teacher wants, he or she can pull it up too. It's got a little picture of a cardinal on it and winter scene, and I'll pause so you can go ahead and find our poem. Okay, around the world, the winter solstice is a significant date, the shortest day, the longest night, and a powerful transition between seasons. In pagan times, the winter solstice was known as Yule, a celebration of the goddess of moon energy when the moon would give birth to the sun. This celebratory poem, the British author Susan Cooper, she captures the magic of this day and this season. And so this is all about embracing winter. This is about embracing, okay, now we're marching towards longer days. This is a poem that shows a lot of spirit and a lot of hope, although it also takes place on the longest night of the year. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to have you read it to yourself just once, and then I will read it out loud to you. So go ahead, give it a read on your own one time, and then we'll give the poem a second read. The Shortest Day. And so the shortest day came, and the year died, and everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight, this shortest day. As promise awakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And now, so do we, here, now. This year and every year, welcome, Yule. I'm just noticing this poem. It has a lot of some exclamation points, some joy, just looking at the word choices. They're burning bright fires. The sunshine is blazing. They're looking forward to longer days. It's burning through the frosty ages. They're lighting candles. So there's literally like a lot of imagery of like light kind of burning through this darkness, and things are aglow. And what are people doing? Imagine their faces. Well, they're singing, they're dancing, they're driving the dark away with their spirits. They're finding a way to look towards the promise, wakening the sleeping land. Like in Snowy Woods, it was winter and everything was captured under this blanket of snow and hibernating and still and kind of almost dead. And now we're looking towards spring. It's going to happen, right? We will awaken again. And we're giving thanks for that. And we're loving people in our lives and relationships, and we're hoping for peace, and we're marching toward a good new year. And that's what I hope for all of us, that we will also march toward a good new year and find ways to be the happiest and best people that we can be. So at this time, I'm going to invite you on the same post. So you have a link to the poem, but you also have a Google drawing. And our Google drawing, The Shortest Day, here's a link to the poem as well. This is what your work today. You just have 6 questions, and you may work independently, or you may work with Podmates. It's up to your crew teacher's discretion. Or if you're at home, you can connect to other people virtually if you want to discuss some of these. But in the poem, what are 3 great power verbs? There's a lot of, there's not, it's not like a story where there's a ton of action, but I do see people are doing things like remembering a verb, right? Like, for example, they're singing. There's 1 verb, okay? Come up with 2 of your own. Prepositional phrases, remember those are like under, over, around. We just read The Chase, and the guy chased him under thorny hedges, through this, over this, around that. Okay, give me 1 prepositional phrase, not letting go of what that part of speech is. 2, what is an image? Imagery is like where the author uses vivid description. You can see it in your mind's eye. So what is 1 image you could really see most clearly? Just list it, that's all. And then 3 is a 2-parter. 3A, 1 word. What would you describe as the overall mood or feeling of this poem? If Snowy Woods was a little bit more somber, what is this? And then please paste a line or write in a line, a quote that you think best supports the answer of the mood. What is 1 line of the poem that really shows the feeling of this poem? 4 is a text-to-text question. Shortest day, stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Both take place on the darkest evening of the year, the winter solstice, but contrast the tone or the mood. How are they different? 5, higher level thinking. What do you think the author, Susan Cooper, is trying to convey? What does she want people to think or feel or take away from the reading of her poem? And then text to your life. When life feels heavy, what is a healthy coping strategy that you use? Okay? I'm going to take away that's going to be your Wednesday work tomorrow. Okay? So what are your sources of hope? What are your sources of happy? When life feels heavy, what can you do to kind of give yourself a boost and keep on keeping on? Okay? So that's the rest of the hour. You'll just work on this. It's due Wednesday. Okay, it's due tomorrow. And I just want to take a little peek in what your Wednesday work will be. Tomorrow you're going to read a very short article, and it's about mental wellness and finding hope. And you're going to watch a little video, and it talks about high school teens and what do they do for self-care, to combat stress, to combat dreariness, and you'll come up with some of your own strategies. So you can kind of harness that sense of joy and hopefulness for the new year that we saw in the poem. So at this time, go ahead and you may begin your work with a Google Drawing. There are only 6 questions, and we'll see you back here. Thank you so much.